About the topics and the content for today. So first, a few words about us, Schwan Cosmetics. Who are we and what do we do? Then we talk about the business needs as the driving force for implementing the SAP Business Technology Platform and the use cases behind. Then we talk about the approach, how we came from the business need to the solution fit. Karsten will then talk a little bit about the architecture, how does it look like, how does it work? And then at the end, we will jump right into the solution and have a little walkthrough with the core basics so you get a feeling of what we actually created at the end of it, like one of the solutions that we created at the end of it. And then, of course, at the end, as mentioned, we will go into the Q&A and answer the questions that the audience is having. So our company profile, who are we? Schwan Cosmetics is one of three big pillars in the Schwan Group, and we have the writing instruments. This is what probably we are known out in the world for, the Stabilo products. Then we have also outdoor, Deuter, Autovox. They're doing like clothes for skiing, for hiking, stuff like that. And then there is the cosmetics. And cosmetics is not very well known outside in the consumer area, at least. And this is because we are a private label producer, producing for actually all big brands and small brands around the world. And so we don't have an own brand on the market, but we produce for the big ones. When we look at the company group, the Schwan Cosmetics is also when it comes to revenue share, it's the biggest contributor to our turnover in the Schwan Group. And when we talk about cosmetics itself, we are spread around the world. So we have our headquarter in Germany, Heroldsberg. We have a manufacturing area in USA, Murfreesboro, in Mexico, in Colombia, in Brazil. So we are spread all around the world to serve our customers at best, and also produce close to the region of sales where they want to market their products. So we can also have a very efficient supply chain. Our employee size, we are around 2,600-ish employees spread around the world, with the biggest portion in Germany. This is because we have, as I said, our headquarters there, with the R&D, with all our office departments, and also a big manufacturing area. What do we actually do? Regarding cosmetics, we are doing decorative cosmetics in pen products. This is our focus, our core competence. So we are having the biggest portion of our portfolio in sharpenable pencils. We are having mechanical pencils, so the ones that you kind of twist and then the lipstick comes out. And then we have liquid products and a smaller section which says others, which is kind of like mascaras and stuff. And all these products, as mentioned, are made for other brands. And our business model is completely private label. So our cooperation with our customers is always with an individual design within a sales project together with the customer. So the story back then, why are we doing even cosmetics? And this is a story that I like to tell because it explains why a pen producer is making cosmetics now, is because at 1927, we realized that the sales numbers of our so-called Dermaliner is way higher than the expected market demand. And the Dermaliner was an eyeliner that is built for lining on the skin before surgeries. And we realized that the wives and the women of the surgeons use these to make up their eyes because they said it applies so well on the skin, and they kind of liked how it feel and the look of it. And this was the kickstart to going in the cosmetics industry as Schwan. So now talk about the second part, which is the business need as the driving force. And we at Schwan Cosmetics, we always, with our customer-oriented processes and then start to look for solutions from that point. So in every customer process is every, because we can develop custom colors, but of course there's the interest of specific customer segments to use an existing color of our huge portfolio, which also increases the speed of the sales projects. And how can we answer that question if our color cosmetics portfolio is above 12,000 colors? No human brain can kind of communicate about this huge variety of colors, and every year there is 3,000 new colors joining the portfolio, and 2,000 gets kind of end of life cycle and get removed from the portfolio. So this is a huge challenge for our sales team, and we wanted to go through the process and kind of improve it, because how does it look like from a customer side? First, we have our customers sending us a reference saying, I would like to see a shade of lipstick colors that are oriented on the plum theme. What can you offer? Then on the next step, we have our internal colleagues walking into our stock library where we have over 12,000 samples ready for our customers, and then they need to compare and check what is the best matching fit to the reference of the customers, and they hand pick it and compare it. Of course, these samples then need to get shipped to our customers around the globe. This can take from 1 day to over 3 weeks, actually, depending of these samples get stuck in, where there are countries where it's actually more difficult to send samples over and more pricey. So that for itself is a challenge already. And at the end, our customer receives these samples, and then not very rarely we get the feedback of, this is not, I like the colors, but this is not what I had in my head. And it's very difficult to communicate about colors because it's a very subjective topic and hard to describe. So our mission to accomplish and our challenge that we want to tackle is, how can we improve customer experience while also reducing the internal effort and the costs of this process? And it was clear that we have to use any digital solution here to suit the process and to improve it as well. So how did we come from this starting point to the solution connected with the SAP Business Technology Platform? Our approach for the solution fit was starting with the persona analysis. So the questions here, who do we want to help and what are their pains and needs? The next is, if we see the pains and needs and who do we want to help, then the question is, what features does an application need to have in order to really help the user? On the next step, we did a prototyping. How could it look like and how could it actually work? And this prototype was made by paper at first, really, to talk with customers, to talk with stakeholders, give them a feeling, because if you visualize the solution, then you get more ideas and feedback from the actual users than you would if you didn't. And the last step here, oops, sorry.
Yeah, not representation mode. Alex,
does it work?
It's not representation mode. It's representation. It's PowerPoint
now
directly.
Somehow kind of jumped out. You just can here. Why is it always on this screen? Okay, so and does it work now again or still not? Okay. What systems do we have? What data do we need? And when we had first discussions, we talked about the internal solution, but actually when you look at the process, it's very beneficial to give direct access to your customers so they can contribute in that process and also use kind of self-service on picking the shades whenever they want. And when we look at the application features, then it also was clear that we need a registration and a login process for external users as well. which brought a complete users. We have internal users and external users, and both have different roles and permissions. So also we would need to handle this kind of situation. And then there comes all the, I would say, basic features of the solution. We need somebody to type in the target color by data, so what I'm actually looking for. Then we need a search functionality within the database of all the existing color data that we have to find the best matching one. And we also need to display images of the color to visualize them. And to narrow down the search of the 12,000 colors, you need to filter by criteria, like do you look for an eye product, lip product, and stuff like that. And at the end, we need to have a checkout process where these samples of colors then can be ordered. When it comes to the prototype, as mentioned, we started with paper to get a feeling of what the users think about, and then we iterated like, I think, 4 times to come to the solution as we implemented as our minimum viable product at the end. And now when we looked at the system side, it was clear that we wanted to move to a web-based application. We also need the user management type, which we kind of couldn't really tackle at the moment. We also needed to integrate our SAP material master data, because these are the data that are describing the colors. We have also to integrate the SAP environment and healthy system data. These are also more details on the formula side of the cosmetics colors that are describing, is this a vegan product? Is it for the eye category, or what actually is it? And all these data need to be integrated into the solution. And then the next part is that we have images that we need to store somewhere, and we have to upload them to kind of connect the material master data, the environment and healthy data, together with the images that we want to show, because this is the whole set of information to describe the colors to our customers. And because it was clear that we talked about like 55,000 data sets that needs to get kind of screened on every change of the filter that the user is making, we can't give direct access to our ERP system because it wouldn't be performant enough. So we need to build like a persistence layer of data in a cloud environment and access there, which then this persistence layer needs to get synchronized with our ERP data, so we don't run out of date here. And now we started to look at what we have and what we were missing. And that was the moment when we came to the SAP Business Technology Platform. Because from our point of view, we needed a user management. And here within the SAP Business Technology Platform, you have the so-called identity authentication service. And this is a service that enables you to manage all your users, your roles, your permissions. For internal users, just to mention, we have a single sign-on coming from our Microsoft AD, Active Directory. And Karsten will later explain how this looks like in the architecture image. But then when it comes to integration of our SAP data, whether it is the material master data or the EH&S data, we also needed to combine and merge multiple data sources in one information string. And this is where the SAP Business Technology Platform comes with the integration suite and standardized ways of connecting your systems, which was very helpful. The cloud data storage here, the SAP comes with the HANA Cloud Storage. And just to mention, the HANA Cloud had really a great performance on generating different views, calculating results, and then displaying them in the application. This was one of our, I would say, most critical success criteria why this way of building the application actually worked, because of the performance of the HANA Cloud. And at the end, we had images that we wanted to store and link them with the data. And this is where the SAP BTP had the document service. But as a side note, the document service is a service only available on the Neo Cloud and not anymore on the Cloud Foundry. So for people that are going to use or already use the Cloud Foundry, they have to use third-party providers for such storage systems. So why or when to even consider the SAP Business Technology Platform? If you are a company that wants or plan to expand your existing SAP systems, then you should have a look at it, because it's worth alone for the integration part of it with the integration suite. If you're an organization that want to kind of deliver cloud-based, web-based apps to the outsider world, to the external users, then this is also something worth looking at it, because here you can manage one central access for multiple applications, which is very, very helpful. It's kind of an all-in-one toolkit when you want to build such applications, because as mentioned, from the integration to the user management, to the storage, to everything, you have the components to build them. Also, as mentioned, the performant Cloud HANA database is really something that you should consider if you do not want to go to a direct access for data exchange within our ERP system, but rather build like a persistence layer of huge data sets where you have to calculate different views. Then this is also very helpful and worth looking at it. And of course, the last part and the most obvious is if you have like an existing SAP landscape and you want to deeper integrate into this landscape and connect various systems, then this is also very helpful looking at the integration suite. So the next part here is the architecture of how this whole environment is actually looking at. And here I will hand over to Karsten, who was the architect building this architecture together with us in this case.
Thank you, Alex, for a wonderful introduction into this solution and business challenges. And now let's have a deeper look at the architecture of a solution, or high-level architecture, with a lot of different components and services used from a SAP Business Technology platform. So during the project design, we had a look at the different services available and decided which service can be used, should be used, or sometimes which services wouldn't make any sense, just to bring the perfect fit solution to Schwan Cosmetics. So now let's have a deeper look into several building blocks, Alex. Yeah. The first part, the obvious one, has almost nothing to do with business technology platform. It's the application itself. The application itself consists of two parts: a front end, where the user can log in, select colors, and store projects, and so on. And the back end, where all the logic is implemented, the data access is created, and so on. The front end itself is an Angular 2 application, just a standard HTML5 framework. So maybe you ask why we don't use UI5 or Fiori, because Schwan Cosmetics customers have really high demands on usability of solutions. And UI5 is designed more for internal use, a lot of data inputs, and you have to follow a strict guideline. So I guess one of the first decisions in the projects was not to use UI5, rather use an application framework that is more flexible to fit to the customer's needs, or Schwan Cosmetics customer needs.
And maybe to add up on that, it was clear for us that we will do the development of this solution over multiple years and start with a minimum viable product and then enrich it with features and functionalities over time. And we didn't want to end up in any restrictions or limitations given by the UI5 elements.
So UI5 makes a lot of sense for many use cases, but not for this one. And so we decided to use Angular 2 with a material design template. The application itself runs in the HTML5 container in the BTP, So SAP original created this container to host UI5 applications, but you can operate any HTML5 application in that container you'd like. And you can also participate on some core features like accessing security information, destination information, and so on. And again, all the backend logic is implemented in Java Spring Boot application. Let's say just standard application that uses the Java runtime in the Neo environment. It can also access the security context, can access destinations, and so on. So in the backend, for example, we ensure that the user can only access the data he is allowed to access using the security context. So quite standard application, operated, maintained in the business technology platform. Let's go to the next part. Now we have an application, but we also need users. The external users came, like Alexander mentioned, from the SAP identity provider or SAP identity authentication service. Every external user is created, registered in the SAP identity provider in the business technology platform. Also, the partners or implementation partner like us is created in the SAP identity provider. For the internal users, the Microsoft Active Directory already exists. So any internal user has to use its existing credentials to log in. That's why the SAP identity provisioning service was used to synchronize the Active Directory users with the identity provider. So if a user logs into the application, the identity provider checks, is it an internal one or an external one? If it's an internal one, it just redirects to the Active Directory for logon and so on. And the external ones get the SAP identity provider login screen. In addition, for developers, the identity provider also forced a two-factor authentication. So the normal customers for Schwan Cosmetics don't need a two-factor authentication for the login, but external partners like the systems needs two-factor authentication to access the application and the business technology platform resources. I think it's also worth to mention that the separate identity provider is also used for log on to the business technology platform. So it's not necessarily required that you create SAP as users to access the customer-specific BTP instance. So these users are also managed in the identity provider. So now we have an application front end, users, and now a short look at the backend part. As Alexander already mentioned, one really essential part is the HANA service or HANA Cloud service, where all the data is stored, it is created in the application or synchronized from the SAP ERP system. The application has to be really, really fast to collect the correct color. So the customer just enters, I need the plum blue with the following code, and then the system has to compare this customer wish with about 50,000 data records in the HANA, just instant in time. Just check which colors are the best match for the current customer request. And to be honest, you do not even feel that there's a delay in getting the answer from the system. Most of the time just is network issues or something like that, but the HANA is really, really fast just to compare the customer wish with each and every single color in the system. So HANA service, and Alexander already mentioned document service to store the image data for colors and created content. If we would create a solution nowadays, we would use normally storage from a hyperscaler like the Amazon S3 or something like that. But for the solution we designed 3.5 years ago, the document service was a perfect fit just for this case. And last, we also use the ASE database in the Neo environment to store usage data of the application. HANA Service Cloud storage is a little bit expensive, and the usage data is massive data that is not really needed for the application itself. That's why we decided just to store it in a cheaper database than the HANA Cloud Service. So go ahead, please. So next, oh, okay, took some time. A really important point was the integration of data. As Alexander already mentioned, there are a lot of systems that provide information from SAP, ERP, EHS, and so on. And this data has to be synchronized with the HANA in the cloud environment. In addition, there's a color management solution where some more color informations are configured or defined. And also the images have to be uploaded from the color management to the HANA, to the SAP Business Technology Platform environment. On SAP on-premise side, the cloud connector from SAP is installed. That direct communicates with the OData provisioning service in the Business Technology Platform, and the HANA SAP Cloud integration, formerly known as HANA Cloud integration, uses these services to store data in the HANA database. Why we've chosen to replicate data? Just for performance reasons. Every single data set that is really necessary for the application is synchronized to the B2B Business Technology Platform. So the application itself can run without any active connection to the SAP ERP system. So if SAP ERP system is down or there are some connection issues or something like that, the application itself can still be used. There are some processes that need a direct integration to the SAP ERP, but we are not really essential for the core business case of the application. The SAP Cloud integration provides a lot of standard integration flows to access data or synchronize data between standard applications. But for this project, custom flows had to be defined because it's a custom application with custom interfaces and custom requirements. So we do not really use the standard flows that were available. So maybe just next. And also another part of the integration, at the end of the process, the customer can order some color samples. And the order request has to be sent to Salesforce, the CRM solution. And where we also use the cloud integration together with the open connectors available in BTP just to share information with Salesforce. And the open connectors provide standard interfaces for Salesforce integration. So it makes life much easier. You do not have to think about each and every single step that's required to integrate Salesforce. Just use the open connectors and connect. Quite simple and easy. So last, Alex, but not least, there's also a back office part of a solution where it's for internal usage, where the administrators can check the current status of colors and which attributes and fields are maintained in the replicate data sets, or we can administrate some content for the application. And if the external user wants to register for the application, there's also a small app in the Fiori Launchpad to enable registration. User can enter the data and to follow a workflow that an internal member can accept the registration or deny the registration and assign roles and so on. So we use the Fiori Launchpad for the internal back office part, the workflow service to create a simple registration workflow. So I think that's all from a high level architecture perspective. There are a lot of topics to be discussed inside, but I think for an overview, this might be sufficient. I think, Alex, now it's time to go into the solution because we've talked a lot about the surrounding parts, but.
Yep. So to mention on the presentation. It also will be shared at the end of the webinar. You have a link here where you can see like a short introduction video about the solution, the case behind, and how it looks like from a high-level perspective. So there's that. And right now I would like to jump directly into the solution to show you like the end product of all these integration efforts and development efforts. But also just to mention, I can only walk through on a very high level for one reason, the time, and for the other one that we have some, let's say, features that are more kind of special and should stay within our organization, our customers range. So the so-called color visualizer is a web-based application that is based. Why? Because why should it be a native application? Customers to exit it from wherever they are, whenever they want. Then the with the authentication, and the system is the application. And the standard process, and what I also visualized customer topics, is, for instance, the color the customer could upload an image of his plum theme and then pick the color, and the application will then calculate the best matches of all the 55,000 data sets in the HANA cloud and then show the results. So another thing that we do is also that we show, for instance, color trends here coming from our marketing. And then we have, for instance, here the Pantone color of the year, which we can pick. And this is the same logic as with the other entry. Customer can design, and these calculate the HANA cloud. And here on the side, you can kind of downstream your search results, and you can filter by attributes. And these attributes are coming from the material master data and from the environment and healthy system on the SAP side. So this is the information that we layer on the persistence in the HANA cloud. So here the customer can decide, I'm looking for a glitter one, and then it gets filtered so you can keep the level as possible within the application. And what the user then does is simply picking the shades that he likes, and then he can or she can have a look at it. How does it look? The MSys process the sample or pick any samples they have to decide on what is best matching for what the customer is looking. They are getting material IDs they now have to pick and know that these will suit for whatever the customer is having in her or his head. So that is a brief look at the application itself.